Staying with the Monday Report Town Hall session, we're still talking about how we ensure there's a peaceful election in next year. That's 2022 in August. It's our collective responsibility. Let's hear what you're saying. There's a lot of videos that have been sent through. Let's bring them up.
So my feeling is that 2022, it will be peaceful and it will end in a happy way. The winner will take it all and the loser also will concede defeat. That is my opinion. Thank you.
How will they curb the conflict since our politicians keeps on blaming each other based on ethnic groups, yet they are doing nothing like the NCIC? Thank you.
Let all Kenyans be agents of peace as we near the general elections. And I also pray that the political class will do their campaigns in an harmonious manner so as to avert unnecessary tensions and animosity amongst their various supporters, which may be obvious remedies of chaos. Thank you.
The remaining 11 months, it's going to be tough. As things the way are going on, it's going to be tough. I don't think if these politicians should just come together and listen to each other.
When you continue with the kind of things that you are witnessing, divisive politics, and we are just a year to election, this should tell you that something bad might happen. When you see a smoke, definitely you need to know or expect that there is a fire somewhere. So let these politicians be contained now, as early as now. And I believe when this is achieved, then you will be able to do a free and fair elections.
I think the main way to end the election violence in 2022, the main way to prevent, is by engaging the youth in productive activities. Sababu, the government officials, the government politicians usually come to the ground, they grab the youths, and then they ignite a fight and they start a riot. So that is what I think we can do. Sababu, the youth in Kenya, most of them are jobless, and if we can be able to help the youths, then we have helped Kenya.
The question to ask, what has NSIC done to promote peace ahead 2022 polls?
My question is, why is it that all of the government sets barriers against politicians, like campaigning, like public gatherings, like going to churches to campaign there, and yet the same things, they continue happening? Is it that they're just barring a given individual because he's becoming famous, or is because he's doing politics early, or by doing so, are they trying to create peace, or they're just trying to widen that gap?
Reverend, you've mentioned the issue of elections bill and norma, but what consequences can politicians or even the general public who engage in hate speech expect moving forward? Because that's essentially what even the people are wondering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor, I think it's good, and I'm pleased to see that there is so much responses, and Kenyans are discussing this issue, which shows that Kenyans are really concerned that we should have peaceful elections. Now, the reason why from an election to another, from a year in and a year out, you have those who commit crimes without consequences. If they commit crimes with impunity, then they will repeat it. So there are three pillars of consequences that we should introduce. First one is political, and this is what we have been talking about. Political consequence is that you can actually be declared unfit to be elected to represent the people. So that's one, and we need to work together with the political parties, with EACC, with DCIA, so that we are able to bar and refuse to clear candidates that are of questionable character. The second consequence is social. And that's why we come up with the wall of shame and the wall of fame. I must say that we have talked a lot about the wall of shame, but wall of fame, there is one person we have put on the wall of fame. This is Honorable Abdul Karim Osman. Is the MP for Fafi constituency in Garissa. This is a politician who, when he was addressing his followers, he was being cheered by his followers and asking him to condemn his opponents. What Abdul Karim did was to say, look, I'm not going to do that. Even if it means me losing the next elections, I will not do it. I mean, that is the Kenyan politician we want. So we should also honor those that behave like that. So this social consequence is also important. The third one is criminal consequence. And that is where we are working together. We have formed a multi-agency platform that brings NCIC, EACC, DCIA, DPP, the Registrar of Political Parties, and of course IEBC. Now this platform, we have formed it because we have realized, and when Kenyans really talk of NCIC being a toothless, etc., there is a limit to what we can do as NCIC. Because we monitor, we summon people, we investigate, and once we have established the evidence, then we hand it over to the DPP. And then the DPP, the prosecution goes on in court. And so there are different steps that different agencies perform. Now, the problem is we have been working almost in silos in this respect. Now, we have formed this agency, and IG, incidentally, is also a member of it. And we meet regularly to assess where we are. And I must say that we are beginning to see that if an offender is charged with multiple charges, it's very difficult to escape all of them. And that is why this multi-agency platform is important. So this is what we are doing in order for us really to help Kenya to be able to clean up. You know, there has been talk of political hygiene. I think it's Archbishop Moheria who talked of political hygiene. I've been talking of political decency. That's what we really need as Kenyans, because Kenyans don't want to go back to 2007, 2008. And therefore, if we work together, this is collective responsibility with all the institutions, the agencies, and organizations. And let me really come back to the youth and give an example of a youth group calling themselves Vijana Bila Ukabila. And this group of 6 young men and women, which they are the ones who walked from Eldoret to Mombasa, and then I received them when they came to Nairobi. They say, Nina Kabila, lakini sina ukabila. And we are working with them. Now we have incorporated them into our roadmap, and they are going to be our ambassadors in all the regions that they come from. These are, as Mustafa said, the 2019 census have shown that young people of 35 years and below are 75, 3/4 of Kenyans. And therefore, this is a constituency formidable if they are organized. And I think that is where we need to involve the young people, because these are the ones who really need peace even more than anybody else, because it's their future which is being messed up by irresponsible politicians.
And Dr. Mustafa, is the system rigged to fail? Because what Reverend is saying is very true. His mandate can only stop at a certain point. He can't go the whole 9 yards. But then therein comes the issue where even if you present the evidence, someone can counter this in court for 10 years straight, serve 2 terms, and they don't even need to run for office without that case being concluded. So is our system just simply rigged to fail?
It's not rigged, Trevor. It's the selective application of law that makes some people dodge sentencing or to be excluded from the electoral process. And there is a way that criminals in Kenya actually preempt their arrest or what they're going to do or how they're going to be handled through the court system. And I think it's really up to the judiciary to play ball now. There will be no country to pass laws on or sentencing or whatever if we are going to be led by crooks and criminals because the judiciary itself has failed to actually sentence the criminals. And this is not fiction. I have seen that NCIC, other government agencies have actually raised again and again and again that certain people are actually messing up this country, and evidence is there, and they either get away with very light sentencing or just a warning. But at the end of this, Trevor, this really rests with the people. Criminals cannot get elected if Kenyans don't go there and elect. It's Kenyans that are electing these criminals. And we have to ask this question, and we have to ask the young people directly, why should you mess your future by being given 100 shillings to go and buy changa or just to be bribed to go and vote for a criminal who stole that money to come and bribe you? It doesn't make sense. And the second point here, Trevor, is young people in this country are very brilliant people. And surely, why don't you deploy your brilliance to actually reject this kind of leaders, reject the kind of a political discourse that leads us to being balkanized into ethnic fiefdoms or tribal enclaves, which means nothing. If you went to a university, why should you be defined by your tribe? Why shouldn't you be defined by the professional that you have become because you went through some kind of schooling? And these are questions that young people should be asking themselves, and I'm pleading with them. I'm pleading with you young people, act on your intelligence, your brilliance to actually reject all this. It's the same faces since 1992 that we are seeing. Why don't you just reject all of them en masse and tell them, sorry, go home. Let's have America voted Barack Obama at the age of 44, 45. And look at, America is moving. There are strong institutions there. And the other thing is that the terrain has changed. It's not the old way of campaigning. People are campaigning through the social media. And if young people are going to be bought as influencers to hurl insults against or for a politician, then you are being misused, and you are really messing up your future. And I really hope that this is not going to be the case this time.
Millicent, there's something you raised earlier on in terms of reminders. In fact, you said let's hold a congregation at the Kiambaa Church just to tell people the impact of what they think is a small fire, what it can do. And I also saw the documentary called Never Again, heart-wrenching stories there. But will that help, or will it make it worse? Because then some people say we are simply opening old wounds.
So it's a two-edged sword, and thank you for mentioning the Never Again documentary. The Kenya National Committee on Genocide and Atrocity Prevention is working on producing that documentary in liaison with the Auschwitz Institute for Genocide Prevention. You know, in Kenya, people don't even want you to mention the word genocide because they think, oh, it only happens in Rwanda, not here. And yet, if you look at that documentary, and we will be posting it also on social media, you will hear heart-wrenching stories where people are saying they were actually chopping off, you know, people's hands. And you ask, is that opening wounds and not addressing it? If you actually listen to that documentary, one of the ladies said, TGRC was one of the best things that happened in this country. And people were glad to go and share their stories because then they start healing. They start remembering, but not with vengeance. They remember so that they can narrate, so that they can be listened to, so that they can be affirmed or reaffirmed, so that they can find a way to heal and get out of revenge and start moving out of the cycle of violence, you know. And so one of the things that she lamented was that, unfortunately, the TGRC report was not implemented. We have had Agenda 4, has not been fully implemented. So again, the issues of responsibility and accountability, who should bear the cut? Who will follow through? And I guess one of the final things that was said in the documentary is that maybe things are not just moving because of impunity. One of the boys who escaped from the Kiambaa church said, I feel bad because I don't think justice has been served, because I see the people who did this still around me. So are we going to open these wounds and leave them like that? We are talking about them not because we want to ignite vengeance, but we are talking about them because these people feel that they have not been heard. They are not being seen. You know, somebody is having your property and you can't have it back, and yet the responsibility was put on the politicians and the people who actually did the job. That's why, again, I said when I started, the responsibility lies with individuals, me and you as Kenyans. There's no excuse that a politician told me to do this. When we will be able to resist provocation to violence, we can actually have the better Kenyans that we were talking about, and we will have our Ubuntu-ness, our humanity, our humanness will be the thing that we put in front instead of the material gains of fame and this other kind of thing. So we are not opening the wounds so that people may remember with vengeance, but we are creating safe enough spaces because of the trauma, the well-being. I mentioned suicide rates going up. We have a case in Kibera. The man was sexually abused, assaulted. He says, unfortunately, the cases of the men who were raped was not even addressed. They didn't even get, some of them didn't even get medical attention. And if this continues, what kind of people do you think they're going to be? And if we say that the youths are the ones who are only taking the money, the apple does not fall far from the tree. Where do they get this from? From us. They learned it from us. Corruption, where did they learn it from? From people who are their parents. They start from the home. And so as Kenyans, let's take responsibility. If we want a good country, let each and every person remember, not with vengeance, but let us create a pause and safe enough spaces where people can talk about these issues in a manner that we call them dialogue. Dialogue is listening to understand, but not necessarily listening to respond. But just, and also in a non-judgmental way. So it's kind of ideal, but it's a place to start. You know?
Dr. Mustafa, you know, this is a country where truth seems to be relative. It depends on who is saying it. I mean, even right now, there's Kipngeno Bet who's asking you to stop defamation, saying that how can you call a leader a fugitive? Because people have their own versions of what happened. And it comes back to what Reverend was also saying. I mean, you put someone in a list of shame, the community comes up in arms. That's our person, you can't do that. So how then do we ensure the truth is upheld? And if this is wrong, it is wrong.
You know, Donald Trump came up with this idea of alternative facts. And he nearly messed the US electoral system. He nearly messed some institutions in the US. And had it not been for the strong institutions and people who believe in democracy, including the United States Army, even Pence himself stood against Trump in the last minute because of his ideas of alternative facts. US would have been a very difficult place and would have had extremists win over mainstream in that country. And we have to be serious in this country. Some things you don't even need to go to the court to prove. You just see for yourself the kind of leaders that we have elected in the counties. The amount of pilferage and waste and theft that is going on in the counties is so high that you wonder where this country is going to be in 10 years' time. And I tell you, Trevor, if this is going to be the trend that we manage our counties, most counties, there are 2 or 3 counties that are managed exceptionally well, and we have to give kudos to some of those counties. If this is going to be the trend, then we will have really no country to be proud of in 10 years, in 20 years' time. And we have to call theft, we have to call bad manners in exactly those names, especially when it comes to leadership in this country.
All right.
Let me follow very, very briefly on remembering. The concept of deep remembering is a concept that has actually been tried because it says that we need to find a way of remembering as part of our healing and then reconciliation. I think the problem we have in Kenya is that there are many wounds that have not healed.
True.
From the Mau Mau time, from, you know, the Kemba that was mentioned, etc.
Wagala massacre.
I think time has come when, as Kenyans, we must say, let us not pass the anger and the bitterness of our generation to the next generation. Because if you do that, then that is what is likely to be repeated over and over again. Whereas there is a way in which, and we can borrow even from our own traditions, when you wrong a people, when you kill a person from another community, how do you deal with that? The blood money sometimes, as it is called. There are ways in which, and Millicent mentioned Ubuntu. In the community I come from, when a person killed another, there was a way that this would be done so that the two communities will be able to reconcile, to heal, and there are rituals that are done so that this now becomes, is dealt with. And the problem of not dealing with the injustices that have caused wounds that have not been healed, that is what I'm saying, the bitterness, if it's passed to the next generation, is then likely to be even worse. And those are likely to revenge even more. So deep remembering means also that that revenge, it shouldn't be a revenge. Yes, we must repent. And as the Bible says, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. You need to be set free in order not to pass that bitterness to the next generation. I think that's what Millicent is talking about. And that is why, Trevor, when we talk of civic education, as now we have it even in these elections bill and norma, it's not just election about voting and, etc., etc. We are beyond that now. We know how to vote, etc. But we have to have political, public education that is also includes the ethical values that Mustafa was referring to, that can become part of our culture. Moving from a culture of violence to a culture of peace. And we begin to learn together. And then we borrow from our very rich diversity culturally. How do we deal with the Kamba situation? How do we deal with the Chaka young men that I found the other day, who are second generation of the Mau Mau, who are now saying that they are going to revenge. So these are the kind of issues that we need to deal with so that we can have a healthy society.
Okay. Gentlemen and lady, I've really run out of time here, but I'll give you a minute for closing remarks. Where do we go from here, considering how do we drum this into the people's heads that at the end of the day, you can be your brother's keeper? These politicians who flare up the political rile are in the class of their own. When things become thick, they will leave with their families. They have unending visas, diplomatic passports and all that, but the people will remain right here. Where do we go from here? 1 minute each. Closing remarks.
So where we go from here, number one, remember without vengeance. Number two, take responsibility for non-violence. Violence is not always the solution. Number three, we all have a role and a responsibility. A role to play and responsibilities to execute. As Kenyans, I think it's about time we embraced our humanness, our brotherhood, and let's look at our national anthem. Let's make it come alive. Justice be our shield and defender. So we expect judiciary to do their work, but remember, justice does not only come from the courts. There's the justice, we call it even restorative justice. That justice seen to be served. It doesn't necessarily have to be like justice through the courts. Let us stop being so litigative. But let's find better ways of communing with one another and This year's theme for the International Day of Peace is recovering better for equitable and sustainable world.
Yeah.
There cannot be an equitable and sustainable world if greed is the overriding, behavior, and if impunity is encouraged. So we must confront this. Let's not camouflage. Let's not hide thieves. Let's call them thieves. And let's do something about it. If we do that, we will reduce the violence and we'll promote non-violence as a way of life.
All right, Dr. Mustafa, 1 minute.
Yeah, Trevor, without a peaceful, secure, stable country, it's going to be very difficult to even achieve an electoral process. And this is something that we should jealously guard. A nation that is governed by the rule of law. The second point here is there are some names. There are certain kind of people whose names should never come close to the ballot paper. And this is really, there are agencies, the Constitution is very clear on this. I hope that this is going to be the case, that we will follow this in 2022. The last point, the young people, you hold the key. You hold the key in the 2022 elections. It's up to you and me and colleagues to actually ensure that we have leaders that care about this country, that are going to ensure peace and security in this country.
All right. Reverend, closing remarks. And Mary Kagunyi here says he wants to know what steps is NCIC making to curb misinformation and disinformation in the digital space.
Yes, it is true that dealing with, say, hate speech, ethnic contempt, etc., on social media is the biggest challenge that we have. What we are doing is that we are acquiring a sophisticated equipment that are going to enable us to monitor. And in fact, at the moment, we are working with the Kenya Communications Authority, we are working with the DCIO, who have those kind of equipment at the moment. Luckily, the technological advancement makes it possible. So that is where, in fact, as we talk, we have 74 individuals that we are now following closely on, who have migrated into social media, no longer doing it in an open political platform, because they know we'll get them there, but they are hiding in in social media. So we are able to get them, and we will get them. And once we get them, then we are going to deal with them. Let me say one thing, that when I talked of the Malta agency here, that we are now having a conversation with the judiciary, with the new Chief Justice, Honorable Justice Martha Koome, and she has said that they are willing to set up a special division to deal with the hate speech offenders expeditiously. And we hope that when this is set up, then this will bring another dimension that we have been lacking, that we can say within 6 months we must deal with these issues. Let me conclude by saying that the motto of the NCIC is one people, one nation, one destiny. This is what I want Kenyans to believe in. Our resolve to be a nation is tested during the elections. And the political temperature goes up during the elections, electoral cycle. We want to work together and really say to Kenyans, we have only one country called Kenya. We destroy it, we destroy ourselves. We almost went there in 2007, 2008. Let us never go there again.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, Chair, National Cohesion Integration Commission, Millicent Oucho Tieno, Chair of Partnership Subcommittee, Kenya National Committee on Genocide and Atrocity Prevention, and Dr. Mustafa Ali, Secretary General, Global Network of Religions for Children, for having that conversation. And most important, thank you for all the views that you sent through. Remember, at the end of the day, all we have is each other. All right? So take care of your brother. Be your brother's keeper. My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us here.